We are live. Hello.
All right, so I'll call this meeting to order at 6:07.
We're having technical.
Hey, thanks guys for showing up. Thanks for everybody who's attending on the live stream. Okay. We do have quorum. Thank you all for showing up. So first thing is amendments to approval of the agenda, and I'll start with Chris.
Amendment to add constitutional referendum to discussion items.
Chris, we'll vote on that amendment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is there a second?
Seconder.
Oh.
Seconder, thank you, Chris. Chris can't move it, so Chris, can you move that one for us?
Oh,
yeah.
Carissa can move it, and then one of us can second
Can you move
it.
it, and then Earl, you can second it for us? Thank you. So all those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries, amendment is added.
I have two that I'd like to add as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Are you done, Chris? Yeah, okay. Daphne, did you have some?
Why do you want to do yours first? Sure, yeah, so I've got, committee appointments and constitutional violations.
So we'll vote on both of those as one.
Okay.
Can I get a mover, please? Thank you, Daphne. Can I get a seconder? Thank you, AJ. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. Seeing none. All right, Daphne.
I want to add two items. One is on budget committee service. Oh, okay. Name it service recommendations, and then the other is an in-camera item regarding feedback. I guess when we reach that item, we will decide whether or not we should be out motion and no reason for it then when we get to that item.
Can I please get a mover for the amendments?
I'll move it. I'm moving.
Oh, she can move, so I'll second this.
Question. As Simmer. Okay, and then Phoebe will second as Simmer. Yes, Angela.
You said if you're recording in camera and discussion later, then probably just motion to add, not yet motioning to do it in camera. Because the motion.
Just add it as a discussion item.
Yeah.
Thank you, Angela. All right, all those in favor of the amendments? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. No new membership. Chair's remarks. It's points night. It's Thursday, second week. We're all busy, so let's keep this as short as possible. I'm doing the 2-minute rule as per usual. Unless you are motivating the amendment or you're motivating discussion, in which case you'll get 3 minutes. 3 or 4. And then we move on to presentations from the board of directors.
No.
I wasn't made aware of any. And then we move on to the AMS reps report. Does someone have anything to report? Any updates? Daphne, did you have anything?
I didn't go to the last meeting because it was AGM.
No updates. Senator's report. The only update I have is that the Senate has moved forward with the creation of an ad hoc committee on diversity, just to ensure that all the activities of the university at the Senate level, which are a lot of policy decisions and a lot of kind of big picture decisions, are being made with the kind of lens of ensuring the most diversity as possible in those decisions. We move on to the ombudsperson report.
Oh, I have a question for Senate.
Yeah.
Last year we were in discussion of having 2 reading breaks. It's pretty good reading weeks, and it just came to my attention that we didn't have one in term 1. So what happened?
There was no vote on it.
Oh, no, nobody ever brought that.
It wasn't. We discussed it in student caucus, just at the very beginning of the year, kind of exploring the idea of, hey, should we bring this back? And then the consensus within the student caucus was that there is not enough support from faculty and admin for a fall reading break, just because that would mean you either extend the term out a week or you start a week earlier, and that was just too much admin work for faculty and students and admin at the So there's no movement on that yet.
Maybe you just want to know.
No worries. On with the person report.
Okay, not a lot externally, and while touching those two things that I mentioned in discussion, the only major thing, we've got a workshop, a mental health workshop that's gonna be held on January 3rd at 7 p.m., which will be right after the exec meeting. And it is mandatory for you. January 23rd, sorry. Yeah, so it's mandatory for you to be there, so if you can't make it, do let me know. And yeah, in terms of some of the things from the constitutional violations report, I'll touch on later, but one that we talked about at the exec meeting was the execs are supposed to be sending out 3 reports to the board of directors throughout the year. But in lieu of that, seeing as it's close to the end of our term, we'll be sending out 1 report probably mid-February.
So the deadline to have it done by February 16th.
Right. Yeah, so that we'll be probably discussing at the next board meeting after that point. So.
Thank you, on with the person. Anything else?
No, that's everything.
Awesome, thank you. I'm just sitting at 2 minutes now. And then with that, we move on to executive reports. We'll start with the president. Each exec will have 3 minutes to go there.
Yes, so when school started, well, I was working on several different things during the break, but when school started, it was mostly helping Christmas with the community report, Maddie reading over her stuff, and then working closely with HR to rewrite all the board of director job descriptions that were sent out last night or a few nights ago by Julina, but I was just helping kind of do all that. Oh, sorry. I don't remember the timeline. I could be wrong with the timeline. Yeah, I went through the meetings. I've been meeting up with, like, having meetings with Lauren again, and I'm helping with HR with a coaching plan that they want to launch. So that happened, and today we just talked about some things that I'll bring up later on. But it's mostly been about, like, thinking about transition and trying to really get loose ends of this month or the things that we've been working on so far. But yeah, that's basically everything. You guys have any questions? Yeah.
When will the board be voting on job description?
Do you want to give me a second?
She asked for feedback on it in the email, so I'm not sure.
I thought she wanted to vote on it today, was planning to have it
So
released.
Julina sent the email yesterday, and she asked the board to just read it and then email them by tonight. So I'm not exactly sure. The job descriptions don't. I guess we said in the constitution that they be like ratified. They have to be ratified. I'll message Joanna during this meeting.
I mean, we can totally, I'd much rather do it next, like, there's no real reason why we have to do this meeting, right?
Well, we know.
Isn't that election time?
Exactly. So specifically in those elections, we told the chairs that they should be expected to release the job descriptions today, considering that the incoming board who is running for elections will be expected to follow these job descriptions, and as they're planning on their platforms and such, this would be very valuable to understand.
Yeah, so you guys could vote on it tonight, or you could just release the job descriptions as, like, Good.
Wasn't the Constitution saying that we have to approve? Or what is
well, I'm
it?
saying you could release the job description being like, this is the final draft, it hasn't been ratified yet, but this is, like, what it's gonna look like for the purposes of informing the board, if you wanted to do that.
Okay, well, whatever the case is, like, I'm not sure if you guys did send any corrections. Did you guys send any corrections?
No.
Okay, so, I just messaged Jelena to see, to double confirm that, I mean, just to make sure that there weren't any corrections. If not, I'll add it later on to the agenda, for us to kind of approve these job descriptions. But yeah, that might come later, but yeah.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Madam President. Moving on to the VP Academic.
I'm proxy for him. He doesn't have any updates since the last exec meeting. Most of his updates is that he's in temporary except for JC West, so he's busy with that right now. That's pretty much it. No updates since last exec.
Thank you, Angela. Moving on, VP External. Did anybody receive any updates from the VP External?
He's also
I don't think we left.
All right, thank you. Moving on, VP Finance. Is this the first meeting where you're the official VP Finance? So congratulations. I'm not going to give you any more minutes, unfortunately, to deliver your report. So you guys, go ahead, Matt.
I don't have many updates besides having gotten signing authority for both my ABPF, so that's all. I do.
Fantastic. First meeting you delivered a fantastic report of 12 seconds. I love it already. Moving on, VPI.
Sorry, my report.
It's okay.
We're still making edits to the formal procedures document. I'm out with Calvin, my AVP, the events team. Sorry. The room booking system, because the old one is broken basically. We're just waiting for it to be deployed. It should be in the next 2 weeks. But that's just like a tentative release date. Elections seems ready, so so I'm trying to find a date for building users and also like our meeting with ourselves, like our committee, but with the with Slaughter it's set. But with like within our own committee, we haven't found time to like Skype yet or meet up. So that needs to be done. A new microwave has been ordered to replace the broken one in the lounge, so yay, Slaughter operations. Locker assignments are going out by this weekend. And we had our very first clubs roundtable right after final in December, and it was a good discussion. If you are curious to know what happened, ask me or Daphne later. And then we're also trying to find a meeting for Sunday. That's it.
Thank you, Vivi. I just had one quick question. One of the coffee machines is out of water. One of the coffee machines is out of water.
I think that's okay.
Oh yeah, and also there's no sugar for for the coffee, but they have milk. Yeah, it's weird. It's a bit
Slack me, I'll send it to you.
Thank you, Phoebe.
If there's like with a microwave or something or like a water or something, you can call the coffee maker or the building ops. It's on the building ops emails everywhere.
Yeah. That's the same email.
Okay, so, thank you, and moving on to VP Marketing, did he provide any updates? Yes.
So Evan told me that his team has been working on marketing for the AGM community report and digital media coordinator hiring. And that is one thing, and the other thing is he had a check-in with Iris yesterday. Things are going well for the year.
Awesome. That's it, fantastic. And then last but not least, VP Engaging with Students.
We've engaged with students. So
Props to the
my goal for the year is to
And
complete.
congrats on the AGM.
You guys all know about that, so I won't get into it. In terms of services, everything seems to be looking good. Hoyts is hosting the ski trip next weekend, which is exciting. Gonna work with them. They sent out the waiver form that like the organization that organizes this ski trip has people to sign, so that's good. I'm also gonna try and get them to send out, whether that's an announcement on the buses or an email out to folks, just reminding people that while alcohol is usually consumed at ski trip, it's not a mandatory thing. Our job isn't to pressure people or to put people in a peer pressure environment, and I think that reminder is good just because it is the Hoyts team organizing it, and their main job is to run a beer garden. So just like sending out a reminder that the consumption of alcohol is optional and everybody's kind of just there to have a fun, responsible time. So yeah, that's pretty much all. Yes.
My question is just, it says waiver form has been sent out.
Yeah.
Where?
They've released it on the Facebook page. I'm gonna get them to like send out an email to everyone. But yeah, it's on the Facebook page.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Are there any other comments or questions on any of the reports that we've been delivering? All right, seeing none, thank you, everybody. We move on to committee reports, and I'll just deliver a really quick one of my own. Conference Affiliation Committee met for the first and final, well, the first time. And then in that meeting, we kind of established a framework moving forward and how the Conference Affiliation Committee is going to work. We submitted the proposed additions to the code of procedure to Chris. Hopefully they're okay. What the committee will actually be made up of, as well as just some recommendations on how the committee should operate moving forward. We decided to leave it committee when it's formed to determine the kind of matrix and how they actually judge the conference affiliation process, and so that we're not kind of pigeonholing them at this stage. So that's that. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer, but we can also refer to the minutes that I can send to you. That's conference affiliation. Any other committee chairs present?
I have an update from Christy for wards.
Sure.
So they received alternatives for purchasing without the credit card. They're still waiting on the amount the budget committee is giving to wards. Representatives and evaluations for events are going smoothly. They're currently in the process of coordinating with the UGO and in the process of hiring volunteers and processing invitations.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
I can.
I saw Matthew, Chris, and then Angela. Angela, did you have a question, or are you committee chair?
I'm confused.
You're confused.
Sorry, so for conference affiliation, that is procedure, not for constitution.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why code procedures is like 78,000 pages, because all the instructions. So Matthew, Chris.
This is for Jacob and his endowment fund committee. He sent out when to meet and will arrange a date very soon, and this meeting will happen very soon. He also talked to Lauren about the cost of funding the CUS lounge cleanings, and we'll be discussing more about that in the future.
Awesome. Thank you. But I will catch up, and then Chris.
So just a quick update on policy committee. We'll be talking about the constitutional changes we want to do today. And then after that, we'll go through and do probably one, maybe two more updates to the code of procedure, just incorporating some of the stuff that the Constitution now dictates, and also incorporating conference affiliation, so that there will be like a bit of time where the code of procedure and the Constitution don't exactly match up, but we can't necessarily prepare too much for that because Constitution's got to go through a referendum, and people would very much say no. But just to give you a timeline in terms of what policy committee will be doing for the rest of the year, that's kind of hopefully give a code of procedure updates somewhere mid.
Thank you, Chris, and I see Phoebe inserting herself. Nope.
Basically for building users, we're just finalizing the committee. I realize it's on the spot, but also that the date with Slaughter is set for 3/3, and then also budget.
Awesome. Thank you. And then SPF exploration. Was there any updates?
Yeah, so we're going to be voting on all the SPF applications on January 28th and applications I do on the 24th. I will be compiling like a package of like rules and stuff that we will be following. And the biggest change is that from here on out, board will be making all the decisions on SPF.
To clarify, on the 28th, that would be all board members that will be attending.
Execs will go to provide context.
Execs will go,
but they have no.
All right, thank you. Are there any other committee chairs or anybody else who would like to provide or is able to provide a committee update? Seeing none?
I just submitted a suggestion.
Yes. And then, so moving forward, amendments to approve previous meetings minutes. The previous meetings minutes are in the drive. You have access. If there are no comments, questions, concerns, the last meeting's minutes. since there shouldn't be, because Natalie does a fantastic job compiling them every time. Could I please have a motion to approve the meeting minutes? Thank you, Angela. Secondary, Erwin. On the board. Thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes from last meeting, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. With that, we move to business arising from the Service Council. Is there any business arising from the Service Council? Hearing none, we move to business arising from the Executive Council. I think that any business arising from the Executive Council, we can take care of in the discussion section today. But is there any business? Seeing none, we move on to business arising from the committees.
This kind of.
The POCO one is a committee, so this is probably go here.
Yeah, good.
That's good. You want to take it away?
Deputy, you have a question?
Oh no, I just wanted to make a note on the live stream that Julian Park has resigned.
Oh.
We never made a statement. Maybe Maddie could provide some context.
Great. So not a lot of context to provide, I would say. Other than Julian basically just said like he's going to be really busy this year, and he's got a lot of ideas and not a lot of time, so he won't be able to moving forward with us anymore.
Great, thank you. We thank Julian for his service in term 1. Chris?
Yeah.
On to you when you're ready. Natalie. Even though that came up now, if you want to copy and paste that into section B. So that'll be a declaration of vacancy because of the resignation. When you have time.
Oh my gosh. Setting 0 viewers right now.
You.
Anyways, hello everyone.
Hello.
Sorry, Chris.
No, sorry.
Section M.
Yeah.
This is section M, business writing. And then 4 minutes, Chris? That was for you? Or 5 minutes?
Yeah, we might. There's like.
Push it. Okay.
Yeah. So I sent you guys an email, kind of outlining what we have to do here. I hope it's no surprise that we're doing a constitutional referendum. That is a surprise. Welcome. So the way that this is going to work, before we can actually ask the student body for changes to the Constitution, POCO had to go through and do formatting updates to the Constitution because that hasn't been updated in 3 years either. We did the same thing for Code of Procedures when we went through it. And so I just want to go right now and ask the board to ratify the formatting changes. In the email I sent, this version is called January 11th because all it needs is a vote by you guys. I think it's a supermajority that needs to vote in favor of it, but then that's the law of the land, so to speak. And then we can move on to the changes, the material changes that will have to go to a referendum because those are based off of obviously the formatting changes that POCO made. So if you just scroll through, there's not too much added a revised thing just to make it more clear when it was last revised, and added a header that was very similar to the Code of Procedures header, and going forward, the 2 headers will be the same just for the sake of consistency. We also, in that header, changed the email to be ombudsperson@cus.ca because before it was publicrelations@cus.ca, and that doesn't actually exist. So we also removed the telephone because we don't reliably pick up the telephone, and so that doesn't make a lot of sense. We didn't disconnect the telephone. We removed the telephone from the header. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Just like these are all kind of technical things. So I've sent it all to you. I would now like to propose that I would like to motion, or not motion, but ask that someone motion to approve these non-material changes to the CUS Constitution.
Before we have that motion, are there any questions? Are there any concerns looking through those proposed formatting changes? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to accept the proposed formatting changes. Mover. Thank you, Daphne, and seconded by Victor. All those in favor of accepting the proposed changes, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. Congratulations, Chris.
Sweet. I will post this version on the website tonight with the changelog, and maybe just a quick note that it's non-material, just so that people don't get confused of like, hey, I thought we were having a referendum. Moving on, we have, so the two other things we have to do is we have to go through these changes and either approve them all at once, or if we want to have a discussion of some of the major ones, we can vote on those separately. And then we have to come up with the question that we want to ask students. So it has to be in a yes or no format. In the past, they've just gone CUS Constitution, yes or no. But I think we can do a little better than that in terms of framing this. And yeah, so if you open up the email that says revision February 1st, the first thing we can quickly look at is just all the way at the bottom. The implementation is going to come into effect on the later of February 1st, 2018, or upon confirmation of the successful results of the referendum. So if we get confirmation right after the referendum happens, this will come into effect on February 1st, 2018. So I think we can probably just go through, oh, I'm sorry. We can probably just go through, let me just open up this in.
So since these are material changes, correct?
Yes.
So since these are material changes, we would have to vote line by line.
Yeah, okay, really? Okay, cool.
As in, like, if it's not necessarily, if it's like a different section of the
Right.
same, we can go section by section.
Cool. I think that works nicely. I think there's about 10 total.
Okay.
Oh my God, this is not what I envisioned this would look like. Cool. So the first one is a change to our how we define things. So we used to have this idea of announce and distribute. Words basically meant the same. Distribute just meant if someone asked for a paper copy, we would print them a paper copy. But what we decided to do is combine the two words. We kept them as distinct words just for grammatical reasons. Sometimes it makes more sense to say announce or distribute. But then we just said to make a reasonable effort to communicate with all relevant parties, including posting on the CUS website and other channels as determined by the VP marketing. This is different from to post on the CUS website. And the idea behind this is we will always post on the CUS website, but we have to like say we're making a reasonable effort as determined by the VPM to reach all the relevant parties. Because posting on the CUS website might not do that. Angela?
I guess to be more concise,
Mhm.
or you could just define reasonable in its own definition, and then that would include.
I think this gives more leeway to the VPM, and this in fact probably is more concise just because it's the shorter definition. Yeah.
Just because reasonable does pop up in other.
Right.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Cool. Do we want to vote on this?
Is this the only change?
This is only changed to the terms.
Okay, and so what section is this?
This is section 3, Article 3. Yeah.
Of section. Oh, okay, okay.
They're called articles.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So could I please get a motion to accept all changes to Article 3? Thank you, Carissa. Seconded by Erwin. All those in favor of accepting proposed changes to Article 3, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries.
Sweet. Moving on to, so this version is in section 5. Basically, the language in here was kind of ambiguous. It said, this talking about the code of procedure, sorry, it's a little cut off, but you can see we're under the code of procedure here with this guy right here. And we said that it should be superseded by the Constitution and AMS rules. Having a talk with the AMS, what actually happens is their rules don't supersede ours. We just can't contradict them. And we have very similar language for the Constitution in terms of not conflicting with the AMS, which is basically the same language here, contradiction. So what I basically did was say that the Code of Procedure is only superseded by the Constitution, and that the Code of Procedure can't be interpreted in a way inconsistent with the AMS Code of Procedure. So it's like a slight difference, supersedence versus contradiction, but this just makes it more clear that AMS rules don't supersede ours. We can't contradict AMS rules. Questions? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it doesn't take a what. Is there the same thing for code of the Constitution as well to not be
Yeah.
included? Where is that?
Section 4, it says contradiction, nothing.
Okay, sorry.
It's, yeah, no, it's, I literally copy and pasted
Okay, thanks.
what that said.
Thank you. Is there any other changes to section 5?
No.
Are there any other questions in regards to this change? Seeing none, can I please get a mover to accept all changes to Article 5 as presented? Thank you, Victor, seconded by Erwin. All those in favor of the proposed changes to Article 5, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries.
Cool.
Thank you.
The next part is in section 6. So this basically says before anybody from the general membership could become a chairperson of the board, policy committee decided to remove that. So not so that the person who chairs the board has to be from the board or from the body who attends board meetings. And this was kind of due to the fact that the chairperson should be kind of a leader in a sense of the board, and in order to do that effectively, they need to come to all meetings, they need to be involved in committees, and overall need to be like an involved person in the society. And if they're from the general membership, there's really kind of no guarantee of that. So we decided to remove the section that allows someone from the general membership to be a chairperson. Not to be confused, people from the general membership are still always allowed. There's a section about like them sitting on the board, not in a non-voting way, or coming to board meetings. That doesn't change at all. This is just someone who leads the board in the meetings and elsewhere. Questions?
Seeing none, can I please get a motion to accept changes to section Article 6? Thank you, AJ, seconded by Angela. All those in favor, please say aye. Sorry, hold on before we vote.
Jade,
Do we want to?
isn't there?
Yeah, there is a different. Yes.
There are two more, because there's the ombudsman that's above that.
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Voting on articles as a whole. Since we're voting on articles as a whole, we're going to cover all the different changes
Yeah.
to this article.
Oh my God, it's so blurry. So this one was just to clarify. This was talking about people sitting on exec council. Before it said that that people from the board can't sit on exec council, making an exception obviously for the president. But then Maddie was just like, well, the ombudsperson also sits on exec council, so we should probably include their name in that list of people who are allowed to sit on exec council, because that's literally their job.
When it says sit on exec council, is it mean on meetings or in the council itself?
I think it means the council itself, but in the exec council membership, it defines the ombudsperson as a member of the exec council.
And they're still ex officio. Carissa, do you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I was at the, chairperson, can you be an exec council person and be the chairperson?
Will be elected by and from the board of directors. So no.
The chairperson?
That's the clause there.
Oh, okay, that's good, because like exec council members have to come to board meetings.
Right.
Yes. The section D there, the second one from the bottom.
So I guess the question is, do we want the ability for execs to be chair people?
Well, on there, it says that, like, it says they're elected from the board.
Yeah.
So currently it says we don't.
Yeah.
Is there something in there that actually says that exec council have to be here for meetings, or is that?
Yes.
Support once a month?
Cool. And then J
Last change.
this is just a little condensing of the rule. Before it was just like at least once per month, excluding the exam period, but then right below it, it said at least once during the exam period in the April exam period, which is each a month. So it's just, we have to meet once a month. And we had 2 lines to say that, and I just condensed it down to 1
Any
based on
questions?
someone's suggestion. So, no, sorry.
Seeing no questions.
There is some more.
Oh, great.
Oh, there's more, okay.
Section 6 is huge.
Ready?
Thank you. It's hard to tell in this format because there's pages.
To delete comma.
No, this stuff is added. Okay, so this is important stuff. This says responsibilities of members of the board of directors. It says carry out, and have such other powers and responsibilities that are assigned in the code of procedure. And now we're adding or board member role descriptions as assigned by the Human Resources Commission. So this is the board job descriptions that HR has been working on to still give the power to the board. We said that changes to the board member role descriptions must be approved by a simple majority by the board of directors before they are implemented. So you guys will get a chance to vote on your role descriptions before they're actually added in. Yeah. Or do you have a question about that? Okay. And then the other one is announce and hold office hours at least once per week, totaling no less than 1 hour. You guys kind of already working on that, so that's great. And then that's a sub point to what I just said. Certain board members might have additional office hours like the ombudsperson. And then it also says attend at least 2 executive council meetings per month, which you guys have all been doing. Yes.
What if a board, because executive council meetings are not determined by board members, if say a board member has other obligation like classes outside of the executive council are unable to attend, is there anything?
No, but maybe now that this is in the Constitution, exec council meeting should be set with an understanding that appropriate planning will apply. Yeah, and this is just to clarify, this was already, I believe, voted on by you guys at one point of saying you will attend, and so this is just adding that to the Constitution. Yes.
Is there anything about what if you're a board member and you stop in for the first 5 minutes?
That's a good.
You could attend too.
Yeah.
But then you're not.
I think that's a good question. But even in any meeting, right?
That's just.
Would you get attendance for that?
I think the onus is on you that if you're showing up for 5 minutes, then you're not actually participating in that. And I know that currently it would reflect in the minutes because it would say the person left at 6:05 because the meeting started at 6.
Yeah.
So then you would be obviously it'd be apparent.
And hopefully the ombudsperson would start noticing that.
I mean, my theory was just a set of guidelines that is ratified by the entire school, our constituents. But I mean, we aren't lawyers here, so if you want to be technical and find a loophole, but it's like, why would you spend that energy on that?
Are there any other changes?
No, to section 6, no.
So hearing all of the proposed changes to Article 6, are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, can I now please get a motion to approve Article 6 as amended? Thank you, Matthew. Seconder, are you proxying for Matthew? So moved by Matthew and seconded by Matthew. Jacob, sorry, that's right. Thank you, Natalie. All those in favor of the changes to Article 6, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries.
Sweet. This one is in section 8. It's the only change. Basically, it said in here that the president would have 3 hours of office hours. That, as Daphne has pointed out, has not happened for the last 3 years. And so understanding that as a board member, the president will have to host at least an hour of office hours like everyone else every week. We removed that and instead added, because we didn't want to remove something that adds to like being accountable to students, we added make a reasonable effort to meet with any CUS member upon request. Reasonable effort is intentionally vague here because it would kind of be hard to put a time limit on this sort of thing. It could depend on email communication. It could depend on a lot of things. Questions? No.
Seeing none, could I please get a motion to approve changes to Article 8? Thank you, Daphne, seconded by Carissa. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously. On to the next.
Cool. I'm just, oh my God. Okay, cool. Looking at section 9, it just looks like there's going to be these changes. just to clarify, in the non-material changes, I tried to remove as many points as AMS representative. We actually don't need a vote on this because AMS representative, that's an automatic thing.
Immaterial change?
Yeah, immaterial, yeah.
That's what I like.
Cool. We'll move on from that. I should probably remove that though before it goes to referendum so that people don't get confused. Cool. Looking at Article 11, this is to give the ombudsperson a little more, I guess, of a nudge. Basically, it already said investigate and make a report based on any complaint or question that a CUS member has around constitutional violations. We just added a subpoint that says the ombudsperson must announce within 72 hours any such report that finds violations of the Constitution. So basically saying, ombudsperson can take as much time as they want to build this report and to figure out if there were violations, but after they finalized a report that they have to announce, which means the definition that we just went over, to CUS members, so that there's a little more transparency in what we're doing. And a perfect example is this is your violations report that we'll be talking about later. So yeah, that's the only amendment to section 11, I believe.
Please get a motion to accept the changes to section 11. Thank you, AJ. Seconded by Daphne. All those in favor of the changes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention. Motion carries unanimously.
Cool. Now we're going to get into the budget. There are a decent amount of changes here. I think probably one of the biggest ones is actually in our constitution that said that executive council would be the people developing the budget, which is insane because I don't think we've ever done that. It's always been budget oversight committee who's developed that. And after the discussion in POCO basically was, as execs, we want to be advocates for our services. So it would be more likely to try and help them get as much money as they feel they need than like be super strict, which is what budget committee's job is too. So I replaced every time it said exec council with budget oversight committee. I renamed 14.01 to budget development process instead of timeline. And the kind of big thing, the biggest thing is that before the process begins, the budget oversight committee has to come up with like a specific process that they're going to follow and a timeline, which includes like a decision rubric on the decisions that they're going to be making. And then that has to be published to everyone before they submit their budget. So it's a little more clear about what budget committee is going to be using to evaluate evaluate the services that will be distributed. We also removed all of the dates in here because obviously the dates are just really dependent on when the AMS wants our budget by. So the only kind of like relative date, there's like before the AMS budget submission deadline, and then the budget oversight committee must submit the proposed budget at least 2 weeks before the AMS budget submission deadline, with the idea being they submit it and then maybe about a week later, the board will vote on it. And then if the board has some serious disagreements, they have like some time for budget committee to meet again and have another board meeting. It would still be like almost an emergency procedure because it would have to happen within like the span of 2 weeks, but at least you would give it a little more time than in the middle of the board meeting fighting over what's getting added or not. I think that's pretty much the only thing. There was a question about preliminary budget, and I know folks from the AMS said that we don't have to submit one, but I think it's okay to just keep it in here because it is kind of contingent on them asking us for one. So just in case they do end up asking us for a preliminary budget, that is enforced in the Constitution. Whew.
And that is, I say the only.
Yeah. Yes, that's everything in 14.
All right. You guys all heard changes to section 14. Could I please get a motion to approve amendments to Article 14? Thank you, Sanjay. Seconded by Erwin. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Now I'm going to have to find the 18. Perfect. Oh, this formatted font I will also remove.
No.
Point B.
Point for
Point B for Article 18 is a whole section.
yeah. So Article 18, this is probably maybe one of the most radical changes. So we've always had this ability to recall board of directors members, but as we all know, doing a referendum, recall means like having people vote to remove them again. Having a referendum is a very logistical intensive thing. And so like the idea of actually removing a board member is kind of like theoretical. So POCO came up with this idea of impeachment, which is basically you can be recalled, which is what Section A says, or Section B now says that on the official recommendation of the ombudsperson, the board of directors can vote by a supermajority to remove any one of the year reps, the senator, the AMS rep, or the president. And then just clarifying that a vote to impeach may only be called 72 hours after the ombudsperson report has been published. So like the chain of events that would happen is be like the ombudsperson, ooh, this person should really be removed, whether that's like them not fulfilling their duties or like corruption in a crazy sense. They write a recommendation that then gets distributed out to students and then have to wait 72 hours before the board convenes to vote on impeaching this person.
And this would be a impromptu board of directors meeting specifically for the vote on the impeachment?
Yeah, it could happen in any sense. I mean, if this happened, I'm sure the chairperson would want to call an emergency meeting to get this done as soon as possible. But it's kind of up to the chairperson of the board to decide when they want to have that vote, I guess. Yeah.
You can even have a recommendation. I just searched up impeachment
Yeah.
Robert's rules.
Mhm.
There's no rules that Robert has about, there's a Robert's rule on impeachment, but
Yeah.
they did say. Have a disciplinary process. Appointing committees may be recommended to
Oh, interesting.
Robert's rules and their recommendations,
Mm.
so.
I think my only
Voting impeached by the supermajority.
right. I think ombudsperson could maybe take the replace of a committee because a committee would have to be made up. The idea of giving it with the ombudsperson is that their job is to be impartial, and we only want to give it to the board who might be friends with this person for that vote. If we have a committee full of board members, which may not include that person who might be impeached, like it may never make it out of committee, right? Whereas the ombudsperson who can act impartially and can publish something, then it's a little more impartial, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Any other questions or comments on that? Thank you.
Yeah.
Seeing none?
I listened to a whole podcast on impeachment. It's very interesting. Impeachment in the United States is like really badly defined. It's hilarious. It's like no one knows why you can impeach someone. It's like high crimes and misdemeanors, but it's like, what does that mean? Anyways.
So that's the only material change to section 17?
18.
18. Yeah. You guys have all heard the amendments to section 18. All those in favor, or can you get a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Daphne, seconded by Jacob. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously.
Yeah, and just for anybody watching the live stream, everything that the board does can always be overturned by a referendum. So if the board did vote to impeach someone, the students could organize a referendum to try and overturn that decision. So in terms of like removing power from the student body can always hold us accountable to the decisions. I think the last thing to do is to vote on implementation. Kind of self-explanatory. So we'll do this vote just to approve when this would be implemented, and then we'll maybe have one last vote to be like, we want to make this a referendum. And the language for that we'll have to maybe talk through. But Article 23.
Any comments or questions or discussions on the implementation date? Seeing none, can I please get a motion to accept the proposed changes?
Motion.
Thank you, Daphne, seconded by Erwin. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously.
Cool. So yeah, we have to now officially send this to the student body as a referendum and pose a question to it. I guess we could probably do that as one thing. Does anybody have any ideas of how we should go about that? Yeah.
So in the past, the the dangers with referendums is having a question that is too obviously biased one way or another. For instance, in this case, it would be great if we put forward a question that was, do you support the changes to the CUS Constitution which increase transparency, responsibility, and open-mindedness? Because of course everybody's going to say yes to that. But you want to be as objective as possible in your referendum question, while also refraining from being overly complicated, like you've seen in kind of political referendums in the past. So if we can find a question that summarizes relatively briefly what we're trying to accomplish with this referendum, but while also retaining some objectivity, that's the key.
That's going to be summarizing the changes. I think would be the hardest part, because how do we describe these changes without using language that would be problematic, right? We could do that, or we could do kind of a simpler thing of like not even describing the changes.
I think that would be
Because so just to give some context about the communication, because I think communication is really important in this one. We will later vote to have to promote this as a yes side or a no side sort of thing. We won't be promoting that externally until the 16th. That's when Elections Committee has said we can put forward a position that we like. And when that happens, Evan and I are working on an email that we're going to send to all CUS constituents, being like, here are the changes, here are why you think you should say yes, so that it's in the eyes of everyone. So hopefully when they get to the question on the ballot box, they're not confused about what the changes are.
Angela?
Question, clarification. Is this considered a discussion item if we're going to be discussing how to phrase this?
No, this is still business horizon.
Does anybody want to take a stab at phrasing the question?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I do agree with you that any attempt we make to try and summarize the changes is probably just gonna come off as either overly diplomatic and confusing or like a little bit swayed one way.
Right. Yeah.
I think that it is important to have some kind of summary, just because if we do this at this referendum, that kind of shows we're not really trying to communicate to the students.
Right. Maybe we could almost do.
Can we have it?
But
No, I don't think so.
My thinking on this, and it's the same with any referendum, is that if you're going to the ballot box and vote on a referendum, 9 times out of 10 you'll have at least done some research on what the referendum is about before you're going to vote. And if you haven't, then that's on the onus is on them. So with the phrasing of this, I would be in favor of a referendum question. I would say, do you support the proposed changes to the operation of the budget committee, et cetera, et cetera? And you're, instead of saying, Article 6 and stuff like that, because people won't really know what Article 6 does. But if you clearly say changes to how the budget works,
maybe just list the section titles from the different.
The power of the ombudsperson in that way, so it's clear, and you can kind of understand from what the article section title is that you can kind of understand what the change is going to be. And this way, you're not saying, do you support the increase of transparency?
Right.
Because obviously,
yeah, that's definitely a good avenue. Another avenue you could go, which is less information, would be like, do you accept the changes to the CUS Constitution as presented at the January 11th Board of Directors meeting? If we wanted to keep it short, I will leave it up to you guys to hash that out.
I would agree with that. I think, however, if we do that, though, we should have a very objective, briefing on the proposed changes, not necessarily in this format, just a 1 or 2 page that says this is what's happening, so that people are clearly aware of what's happening. And then that kind of question, I think, would be perfectly reasonable to have, short, sweet, and tells people, okay, refer to these minutes before you vote.
Right, and so that short description, where would that live? In the meeting minutes here, or?
Well, once the elections committee has said the 16th is the first day we can start to.
Yeah.
So I would say that on the 16th, on the CUS website, we post a link to a 2-pager that says these are all the proposed changes in plain English, in layman's terms, people understand what's happening.
Yeah.
People can refer to that, get whys on what's being changed, and then on the referendum ballot on the election day, it just says, do you support the changes proposed from the January 11th meeting on that report?
Right.
Any questions or comments on that, or any other ideas what we'd like to see in the question? And we can entitle the report that you post to CUS as in, referendum 2018 changes, and then you can say in the ballot.
Yeah.
Yeah, the changes proposed in referendum 2018. Angela.
This is technicalities, but like on the question, will we specifically refer to the report? Referendum changes report. We shouldn't have it there.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Oh, just like
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Once Chris has managed to articulate the report, we can then just be a little bit more nitty-gritty in the wording. But does everybody kind of agree in theory on the kind of question we're looking to put forward to the general population? And then this way, it's a clear yes/no question, and there's hopefully no confusion with it.
Thoughts?
question mark.
Oh. Definitely wordy.
It's pretty long.
Well, as referendum questions go, that's typical.
Unless it's CUS Constitution.
Yes.
No.
Well, for instance, like if we're using if we look at Canadian history, there's like the two Quebecois referendums, which obviously determining how the country is run, has had a way more confusing and way longer question than that. If so, quite frankly, if there's a constituent who's confused with that question, that's a concern. Not on our end.
Maybe you could take out like the present outline. Like all this stuff about
Oh,
being presented.
as right.
Yeah, just like as outlined.
Yep.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh. This one is probably
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other further questions, comments? Seeing none. Yes, Angela?
Do we need to even give them an option of?
Well, if anybody asks for,
We'll print it out for
Yeah.
them. They can print it out on their own. Can I please get a motion to accept the proposed referendum question? We have a mover. Thank you, Angela. Seconder, Sanjay. So this one, I'll need clear, yes, no. So even if you don't say aye, just please stick your hand up clearly. So can I please see all those in favor of accepting the proposed referendum question, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, guys.
sweet.
Thank you for your work, Chris.
Yeah. Cool. So I have a bit of a question. I definitely want to ask you guys to pick a side on this. We're not allowed to promote that side until the 16th. So does voting on it now constitute voting? Should we perhaps go in camera to vote?
What do you mean voting on it now?
Well, so I want you guys to take a side, yes or no, for the referendum. So then the CUS can promote the CUS recommends you vote yes on this referendum, or no, we can take a side. We can be yeah, if you wanted to say no to folks, yes, that works as well. So I'm just wondering if us doing that vote now on a live stream, yeah. Oh, right, that's true.
No, we have voted in camera.
Let's take a look at
Yeah,
it.
something like that.
Well, it said it's not in the minutes, so it's kind of sketchy.
I just want to say
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Transparency.
Wait. Oh,
Well,
no, we went out of camera for the action. Yeah.
I'm all for transparency. I'm just wondering if voting on it now would break election rule. I don't think, as long as we're not promoting it.
Will the minutes even be up by the 16th?
Probably not.
Well, there's two things that are happening. Either we take a side or we don't take a side, but the result would be the same. Is that if the referendum goes through, then everyone would know that we're taking a side and we're not. Shouldn't it be not?
We can promote.
It was.
the slide, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the result is the same, and we're not,
like, I think we should vote on it now. I don't think this constitutes promotion. We're not posting it anywhere until the
It's
16th.
not announcing this.
Exactly. We're not announcing anything either. Cool.
Well, what we could be voting on then is a lot, like, the vote could be, are we allowing the CUS to take a side in this referendum, and then on the 16th, we come up with that side, yes. If everybody is in kind of, because then that could be unofficial discussion on,
But
do we?
I think it should be motion to promote this.
Well, because the thing is if the vote is saying we are going, if the vote is, the motion could be that the CUS take a stand on the kind of proposed
Right.
referendum question.
Yeah.
That can be the vote.
Mm.
And then just informally, we come to a consensus as a board, which would how it would be normally,
Right. Well, I think
and then that's this.
like it's pretty clear that
And we're the ones putting this referendum forward anyways, so clearly we're in favor of it.
yeah,
Hold on,
that's
hold on.
why the out of top?
If like, think about it, if whoever the side putting forward the referendum question is, there's a reason they're putting it forward. For instance, again, going back to Quebec put the referendum question forward because they were the ones who were seeking independence, right? We're the ones putting the referendum forward because we want to see
like,
these
if we
changes.
didn't believe in it, we wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's one thing to believe in it and one thing to like
No, but
promote
we're
it.
required to
We're not,
change.
we're not promoting.
But we will. But
We will
I'm
promote it
asking for
after
permit.
we-
I'm asking for permission from you guys to promote that people say yes to this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
Which is okay.
Well, you need to vote on that.
Yes. So can I get a motion to allow Chris to promote with the
I'm
CUS
motioning,
is on favor?
moving it.
Can I finish it first?
Yeah,
Is in favor of the saying yes to the question.
Allow the CUS to promote saying yes on this referendum.
Daphne moves.
Like to take a public stance.
Yeah.
yes, as an ordinance,
As a body.
Yeah.
as a body.
So Daphne motioned it, do I have a seconder? Thank you.
Question?
So do we actually need a separate motion to say that we have a stance on?
Yes, that's how I interpreted it. I think it would be good to just do it.
I agree with Chris.
Yeah.
And then so Daphne was the mover, Jacob was the seconder. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? AJ and Phoebe representing Simran.
It's wild.
We ever write the keywords?
It was
Issue.
I did it for the other ones. And somebody started doing it. So who else? It was just Phoebe.
Yeah, no. I mean, this is why we have a vote, right? Is like I wouldn't want
You guys-
us to not have a vote on it and not have those two
I'm
abstentions
just
noted.
saying this didn't have to be unanimous if you didn't want to vote.
So then who's
Yeah.
in favor? It's everyone.
Oh, no, now this is everything.
I vote now, yeah, at least for mine.
Are you representing?
I vote
Did you say yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to.
I think that's everything, right?
I vote now.
No?
I suppose, no, I vote yes, I supposed to be, yeah, vote yes.
Okay.
Is that everything? I believe, from the Constitution side. Yes.
So we have a motion to say that we have.
That we didn't
Oh.
vote on it.
It says, so this is our resolution of the board of directors, is that CUS can say it.
Yes.
And but we as board of directors never, do we say?
Yeah, you
as
can
board?
promote it. Yeah, well, yes. I mean,
Is that in the?
yeah, the CUS is,
minutes?
The CUS is representing the board, the exec, everybody within
Yeah.
the CUS as an organization,
Yeah.
so therefore, by that, we as a board are saying yes.
So a resolution. It is at the phrase, this
Okay.
board of directors, I was wondering if that means the CUS is the legal entity.
Thank you, Adam. Is that
No,
it,
it's
Chris?
I believe so. So the way that I've taken it is I'm okay to send Ryan the question that we just developed. I'll send that tonight. I will push out the Constitution, removing those minor non-material changes on the website tomorrow, just to update the one that's on there now. But we will not be promoting anything until the 16th, which is Ryan, our elections chair, is given us as a date.
Is POCO able to create that kind of short report of what the changes are?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was going to be included in our idea of sending out an email to folks.
Sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Thanks,
That's everything for me.
Before we go on to discussion, because there's 4 discussion sections, I'm going to just remind everybody that there will be a 3-minute time limit on discussion per person. And actually, sorry, no, it's 2 minutes per person, and you can speak twice on an issue. And then before we get on to that, if there are any other items people want to add to the agenda under other business, please do so now. Seeing none, I'm hearing some points of privilege. What's the point of privilege? Yep. 7:14. Can we meet back here at 7:20, guys?
Yeah.
Sweet. So adjourn until 7:20. Thank you. And we will be starting at 7:20. So if you're late, you're late.
We'll be back. Oh, okay.
All right, Maddie, go ahead.
All right. So, as you know, Julian has resigned, and he was sitting on 3 standing committees and 1 ad hoc committee, which isn't on there, which is conference affiliations. So, basically, in terms of his seat on the AMS, we were talking about this at the exec meeting, and one possible thing that we could have happen. Right, currently we have 2 seats on the AMS council. So one thing we were thinking is possibly having whoever was to be elected as the new AMS rep possibly come as a proxy and maybe shadow Simran and take that seat on the AMS council even prior to turnover. But that would be something that obviously that person would have to be comfortable with. Because as things are right now, obviously we don't have Julian in that role. So that might be a good solution. Yeah.
I want to note that I don't think Simran said she didn't congratulate with this, and I asked some of the people who are sitting on council. We don't believe Julian resigned to the AMS. And so to them, it might, because I'm not on any mailing list or anything, so I don't get any, I don't know what meetings are, I don't know what's going on, I don't even know if the AMS was a his replacement for the time being before we hire someone, maybe look or maybe elect a new AMS rep to kind of sit in for this role. That's just a note that I want you guys to know about. Because I haven't personally received any updates or any kind of transitioning from Julian himself, although I did attend all the meetings.
I'll contact I think Simran would probably be our best bet in terms of communicating that to the AMS at this point. So maybe I'll let her know that that's where we're at and see what she can do with that.
It doesn't seem like we need a motion on this per se,
Yeah.
but just necessarily kind of recommend to the new AMS rep that we do this.
Right, yeah.
Everybody comfortable with that? Seeing lots of nods.
And then, okay, so in terms of committee appointments, we've got, so Julian was sitting on the policy committee, awards, endowment fund, and conference affiliation. 4 spots that are now not filled. So I think, yeah, we will have to elect people, we'll have to reappoint people essentially for that.
Are there any volunteers?
For the policy, yes.
Thank you, Sanjay. Do you accept your own nomination? Are there any other nominations for policy committee? And you can nominate somebody who's not here. They just can't accept the nomination, so it's not valid.
I see last year. That's
So you can do it, but it doesn't count. By that measure, congratulations, Sanjay, on your appointment to the policy committee. Awards, endowment fund, and conference affiliation. I can assure you, conference affiliation is a freaking amazing time. This really just means that there's a potential for another conference affiliation meeting before the actual election of the next board and exec council hiring of next year. There isn't really a lot of time commitment with this conference affiliation. There may be one more meeting. So really, this would just be, there's a chance for one more meeting. So yes.
Are the people who are on these committees
Board and exec. So you can either nominate yourself as Matthew or nominate yourself as Jay. Okay. But no. So yeah, it's board and exec. Take it from both. So you can go point to
Can I
yes.
Can I put up the
As Matthew.
Wow.
Yes?
Yeah.
Do you accept your own nomination?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Any other nominations for the endowment fund committee?
For sure.
Second call for nominations. Last call for nominations. Congratulations on your appointment to endowment fund. 2 more awards and conference affiliation. Again, 1 more meeting. Carissa. Thank you, Carissa. You accept your own nomination.
Yes.
Any other nominations or down for conference affiliation? Yo! What?
Showdown.
So I
we
mean,
have to vote.
Carissa, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. Since that's such as well.
I mean, like, what if we do?
So At the first conference affiliation meeting, we set up the rubric, not the rubric, but we set up the criteria for what the conference affiliation committee going forward would look like. And then we really established that the way the committee is going to operate is going to be greatly up to the committee that's created by the next year. So the next incoming board and the incoming exec council will be the one who creates that committee and all the structure and the makeup of it and really decides what they do. So there may or may not be another meeting from this year's affiliation committee, since really all the powers and duties have been delegated to next year. So again, great sales pitch. I hope both of you will enjoy it. Do either of you want to retract your nominations just so that there's no election for this committee?
Keen on anything.
Okay, in that case, might I suggest that you join the awards committee?
Sure.
Okay, so, do you accept, Sanjay, do you accept your nomination for the compensation committee?
Sandra's already on.
Do you accept your nomination?
Yeah.
Yes. And Carissa, you withdraw your nomination. One more call for nominations for compensation committee. Second call for nomination. Erwin, do you accept your nomination? No. Last call for nominations. Seeing none, congratulations, Sanjay. Carissa, do you accept your nominations for awards committee?
Sure.
Thank you. First call for nominations.
Yeah.
Second call for nominations. This is awards committee. Not kidding. Last call for nominations for awards committee.
I'm already on awards.
Seeing none, congratulations, Carissa. There we go, Maddie. We've filled all positions.
Awesome. All right, that's everything for committee appointments.
Thank you.
SPF is still missing.
One of those does a member at large. Oh, SPF. Yeah,
But I don't know.
As a member at large,
I'm pretty sure we
I
have
think
no
any of
more.
us.
Can you guys be a member at large?
No.
we're already members. We can't be at
We
large.
can nominate our AVPs.
They have
I have done that.
Are they here to take the nomination?
You can ask them. I'm just letting you know.
We're in a team. What about that time?
I was only did for Poco.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe not at this meeting, but we do need someone to fill that, so if you could talk to your AVPs or possibly your friends or something.
Fantastic.
You can also tell them there's probably only one more meeting.
Woo!
So that's the selling point.
I had a question for my sister.
Are you?
Maybe not even.
Remember that whole part of the committee reports thing?
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't much, it's not material.
Is it worth to deliver?
I mean, it's just saying that we can't, as of now, this tax can't do the case comp because they have nobody. They have one person running this tax.
Okay.
Yeah. So for IT, so originally we wanted a case comp done to better deliver the services that we're coming up with, and we thought about partnering with this tax, but they do not have the capacity to help us out right now, so we are. And it's not likely to come by. So
Thank you.
Was that a committee?
Yep, that was a committee report.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
that's the,
All right, Maddie, now for the fun part.
Yeah, this is gonna be wild. Okay, so I sent all of you my constitutional violations report. It should be on your email, so I would recommend going there and opening it up right now. And I trust that you guys have kind of read through it. I know a lot of people did contact me and whatever was relating to their portfolio or whatever, they're like, got it, it's all good. So, but I just thought we should go through and make sure everyone's aware of any actionables that we do have. And just, yeah, these things that we've been doing wrong in the past so that moving forward, we won't be doing that. So the first one I have on there is that the chairperson of the board of directors should have the same voting rights as any other member, which we haven't been doing historically. Now we are doing that. That's kind of the only way to remedy that. Although it does pose kind of, technically, like, this does kind of stand to undermine the decisions that we have made. If someone were to kind of come and say, well, this decision shouldn't stand because someone hadn't voted or was supposed to vote, we might have to grant them a revote or something like that.
Or I abstained.
Well, But you didn't abstain, right? You just
I
didn't
would-
say anything.
If somebody did that, I'd abstain.
Well,
To
well.
to not change the outcome.
It's, there's no way this is gonna happen, I'm just thinking about the worst case scenario. So, yeah, so on to the second violation, which is, the exec council is supposed to provide written reports. We talked about that with the exec council, there's nothing really for the here. And in future years, they'll have to likely, come up with dates at the start of their term to figure out like when should we be submitting these reports. And I think that's probably more going to be driven by the execs than by the board. Unless anyone disagrees with that, we can keep going. So third violation, Julian gets a shout out in this one. In the public report, it's the responsibility of the chairperson to issue written notice to individual board members who miss more than one meeting per term without notifying the appropriate person. So Julian Hart did miss more than one board of directors meeting in the term and was not notified. So that's a point where we broke the constitution. And given that Julian Hart has resigned, there's nothing really for us to do moving forward. Although now that the chairperson's aware of that, that will be something that'll have to keep happening going forward. So, okay, violation 4. It's the responsibility of the chairperson to ensure that a copy of the CUS Constitution has been signed and dated by all current board members. And this hasn't happened to my knowledge. I think this is pretty obscure. I don't even think anyone realized we were supposed to do this. So I figured instead of bothering to do that right now and then just have the new version come out in a couple of weeks, we might as well wait for the amended Constitution to come out, and then we will all have to sign it, and it will be the responsibility of the chairperson. Okay, sorry, these are all pretty dry, but violation 5. So
Go ahead, Maddie.
So this is talking about how the president has to hold a minimum of 3 office hours. Historically, this has not happened in like years past or this year. And we, going forward, the policy committee addressed this, and we actually, yeah, like Chris mentioned, we've rephrased that so that it's 1 hour per week, because holding office hours isn't always the most fruitful thing. Sometimes people don't really know. So a better thing to do would just be have the president accessible to students, whether that's online or in person. So that's fine. Okay, on to section 14.01. So this is just basically, we've now reformed the timeline in the budgeting process, but all of the budgeting that we did this past year did violate the Constitution. There were a number of times that it did, but just the main part was that it was supposed to be passed no later than July 15th, and we passed it on the 22nd. So just some things like that. Now, going forward, we're not going to have that problem. That was kind of a fault of the Constitution itself. Section 14.04D. The CUS budget shall be updated and distributed to the general membership of the CUS every 3 months after its approval. But our current budget hasn't been updated since it was approved on July 22nd. So Matthew's actually working so that hopefully eventually we will be able to get that out. The Finance Commission is kind of compiling that info from services, and we are going to get that out. I didn't leave a timeline for that because that is pretty, it's a big undertaking, but hopefully going forward we can come up with some sort of process to streamline that and have that expectation from services that we have that information sort of constantly being updated. Because I think that's really key to transparency, is having that budget of like, here's what we're doing with your money, kind of. Okay, and then the very last one, section 21.03A. The records of all past constitutions must be kept for continuity by the office of the ombudsperson, but there is no record. I have the office, it's not there. So yeah, so our earliest copy is from February 1st, 2015, which is the current one, and I now have a record of one thing. So yeah, that's the only, and I will look into looking for the ones in the past, but I don't think it's going to be very fruitful. So yeah, we'll just have that going on file.
Awesome.
Any questions?
Thank you, Maddie, for all your work. Thank you for keeping us honest and as current as possible. Moving on to section 3, service recommendations.
That's me. Upon thinking about it, I actually want to. I'll just quickly bring it up here, but I think it maybe work better to policy. Right? Yeah, so I'll just take it out of here. Oh, are you just nodding? Okay, so then I'll go ahead and talk to you guys about it. As the fact that we're transitioning out soon, one of the complaints that I remember getting was the fact that we hiring schedule was so rushed, and oftentimes we were releasing JDs before we even decided whether or not we wanted to keep certain services. And so I was thinking about solutions to this before the hiring actually happens next term. And so what I have come up with is that the board of directors kind of compile do research in terms of like if anybody had any feedback regarding our services. Originally, my idea was like asking our executives and service council as well what their thoughts and feedback are regarding like each other's their services, but then I realized this doesn't make any sense. It's kind of biased. As people who were voted by students, I think you guys are the best people to gather research by just speaking with people who have gone to these events or gone to our services and their workshops or conferences or whatever, and their not affiliate clubs, just our services. Kind of like how the general population feels about like continued CUS support through the funding and hiring of chairs and stuff. And then we would kind of forward this to a committee, like the budget committee was my original thought, because then they could kind of recommend keeping a service or not keeping a service to the next year's team. This is kind of an idea, but I think it needs to be more fully fleshed out in policy. It wouldn't be in the Constitution, but rather in the code. And then in addition to this, I thought it would be really beneficial that committees not only, this is feedback I got from you guys, the board of directors during evaluations, but the fact that all committees must have an introductory meeting is something that you guys all said to try to outline the scope and understanding of what the committee looks like. But I think after some thinking, I think there should also be a wrap-up meeting where the incoming president and ombudsperson should be required to sit on, as well as the chairperson, because they're the ex officio members, to sit on and understand what was going on, what happened in the outgoing year. But I think these are just all courtesy things, but I just wanted to tell you guys anyways. But that's it. There's no vote. There's nothing. I just want to tell you guys about it. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah.
Comment maybe it's on this budget committee to even the entire board of directors in case.
Maybe instead of. I think as I was saying, I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. I think the board of directors, maybe you guys should be writing a recommendation of what the services to keep, but I don't know who is.
And then like the information for the next year's board.
Well, you guys collect it, and I think it'd be nice if you, as a board of directors, we have a report that we release to or pass down as a collective to the next year's board.
Just to next year's board as well as budget committee.
But I guess this is a big idea, and the board is so big, and so we are doing this because I was kind of making sure that the HR knew what this, because it affects the hiring timeline too. They were fine with it, so if the board is okay with it, I need someone to tentatively lead on.
So there is a vote, there's an action item?
Now there's more of an action item. It's not, we're not in a hurry or anything.
I know some more comments. I think that for services, it makes sense if we were assigned to certain VPs for us to it was the second, third, fourth year reps that were assigned to certain VPs. We could get feedback from the VP services, perhaps that would.
It's not that you get feedback from the services themselves.
But like feedback from people about that service.
Yeah, ideally not the services themselves.
Right.
They'd be probably.
That's like divided just to make sure that every single service is covered.
Yeah.
Because the only downside is what if one service that a lot of people know about, but a lot about that. There's some other services that may not by dividing like a year rep to find feedback for the service
That's specific to their.
That's to the VP that they're associated with, not from the service, but
Yeah.
about that service.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe that way we divide perhaps then for maybe
Yeah,
perhaps.
I would divide it. Yeah, but someone would still need to, like, it's all everything.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Well, I'm just saying, if we have decided that this is not really like a committee thing, then, and this is more of a board thing, I would request that maybe there is a vote in this and somebody should, or not a vote, but somebody should probably take the lead right now, so that this gets done.
And what exactly are you wanting to get done, just as a person?
So, essentially your role would be making sure that all the people who have been assigned services along with Chris and Sanjay, collecting feedback on our services and trying to see if, there are any services that might be more strongly recommended or not recommended at all to the general student body. And just collect like just a report of recommendation. It's not something that will be acted, like you have to act upon. And so, yeah, just to get on.
Is this not similar to what we received though in the community pulse? The kind of feedback we received?
This is more specifically in the sense of like our service.
And I'm just wondering, I'm just concerned that if we're asking the constituency of the CUS to give us feedback on the services, there's 5,000 people in the CUS, right, who are constituents. If there's one person in charge of taking the lead on this and giving feedback on our services, what's the scope of what we're trying to achieve here?
It was just an idea.
And it's perfectly fine, but I'm just saying maybe instead of having it like as a person thing, we have another, not like as extensive as community pulse, but you just have an online form of feedback that people can give instead of a certain number of board of directors going after random.
I think this is more or less an informal, like, the thing is, at the beginning of the year, when we looked at the services, it was more or less for us, it was like, hey, this is something that, like, constituents don't seem to be using very much, or it's not very popular, and that's kind of how we went by it.
Or we had like chairs themselves say they don't really like value in it.
Yeah.
Or for a very specific case of like needing like just no interest from any student who need it, and hence like we put certain services on hiatus. And like we can either just leave it to just remain that way and not do any recommendations, because like you are right, like maybe the student body is tired from all the surveys that we might be releasing. So there might be big keep there. Sorry, yes.
Sorry, I was completely out of this conversation. Are we talking about taking the services that we put on hiatus off hiatus, or are we talking more
no,
about
just, like our existing services? And
So
if anybody wants to like bring certain back.
okay, so my thought of how this would go is like execs would during transition would come up with a more formal like, hey, I think this service is adding a lot of value, or hey, I don't. There are services, and at least I have a pretty good idea of how that works. But giving that to next year's team to ultimately make the decisions about what they bring back. And what they bring back.
No,
It's basically what you're saying, if she wants the board to take.
because I'm just saying that the execs might be biased. Because it's obvious.
But it's tough because I don't know. There might be bias there, but also we're the only ones who really know.
I think keeping this as an informal process and letting the next year's board and exec determine based on the feedback they get from us in transition and people that hear informed to determine what happens. So,
But I see the value in having board take lead on this because,
No,
go ahead, my bad.
I think that yes, it is good for board and also, but also as we are all very limited in how many people we can reach. There is a possibility that they say the demographic that you reach with a certain perspective on certain services versus others. I think there is a lot of value in a online feedback form. If we are going to go more formal rather than informal, I would say that while online feedback may not have as much engagement, I suppose, it does show that we are reaching out to not just our friends who like we happen to interact with at sport events. Like go big or go home.
Well, more or less for me, it was just that, like, the point of board is that they're the representatives of the constituents, and the fact that it should be them that, like, gets the feedback or whatever in whatever format to tell us, like, oh, like, X service is actually not adding much value. Like, yeah, we oversee them, but in a sense, not like we're biased, but like we just, like we're working with them, but it's not like, I'm not actually somebody, like a customer of that service kind of thing, like I'm not.
Yeah, that's.
Well, I think I
Yeah.
understand now. My perspective is more on the side of like whether the services operate.
Yeah, and I think
Not
that would
necessarily
add
the
value, like, we would add that feedback as well,
Sorry.
like, yeah, anyways.
How about?
That's good.
Oh, so yeah, my point is that like, oftentimes we're not the ones using our own services, even though, you know, execs are helping with points, something you guys might know the occasional points, but like for things like Sports Cavalier, I'm not sure if we are exactly the right people or the right audience, or things such as even like the career center that we fund and that's not necessarily a service, but it's a funding item, and people, the board members are essentially the people who represents your year, and so the students are the people we ultimately serve, and this is kind of what I meant by I want the board to take feedback, but I understand concerns on both sides.
My concern with this is you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have an informal process of gathering this information, but then a formal way of presenting it. I think that it'd be difficult to say, yeah, I just talked to 20 people. This is my report on what, you know, services are functioning properly. I think that if you want to have that official kind of recommendation or report on which services should be maintained, which services are operating properly, you need to have an official and formal way of receiving that feedback. You can't just be add on, you can't just be informal. But if you just wanted an informal presentation of, yeah, this is what I've heard from people, then A, that doesn't need to happen necessarily at a board meeting in an official setting. And B, you don't need to present it officially. It needs to be either or, it can't be.
I'd say like do both a survey for the people that you can't reach, and then for board to get feedback for the specific, like do both. I think that there's a lot of value in having a document or like for board to discuss it, just because this is one of those strat. Like if you do both, you'd be able to have your cake.
My other concern is, can we get this done in the time that we have left?
Yeah.
You know, a formal way of doing this?
I feel like that we definitely have to do our due diligence before cutting services. And I don't see it to be tough to do in such a short time period. But honestly, there's no harm in asking for feedback and getting that data right now.
I agree there's no harm in asking for feedback, but I just don't think if we're doing this feedback gathering in this short amount of time, I don't think it makes sense to do it in a official report format in the 3 months, 4 months that we have left as a council. I would recommend that this is just part of the transition as each board member to the next, or each board to the next exec kind of members as well, in the sense that this is what we've heard, because what I'm getting from this conversation is that we want it to be more informal gathering process. And so I think that if you could say, yeah, this is what I've heard from my constituents, they said that, you know, this service has been worthwhile, this service hasn't, and I think that's the best way of going about it. But Carissa, I saw Phoebe, did you still have something to add? Carissa?
Oh, yeah, I think that the informal process of like talking to people is a lot better to get a general vibe of how people feel, because if you release a survey, you're only catching the types of kids that would take the time to complete a survey about the school. Whereas if you like go up to someone in the library, like they're just a regular science student who interacts with the services on a regular basis.
Do I have any questions or comments on this, guys? If not, do we still have an action item on the table? Would it basically be just a
Like, should we do this, yes or no? That would be the first one. And formal or not formal.
So the first question on the table would be, are we going forward with a process of gathering information from our constituents
On
on,
the board side.
from the board side on, well, could the executives not participate in it? Could the executives not also ask their networks of people saying, hey, what?
But the point of board is to represent
Correct.
of their years, so
Correct, so are you,
from my
Yeah.
like in my opinion, I don't think we could give our feedback in terms of like operational excellence, but not in terms of like, oh, my friend said this.
Well,
I'm not a second.
I'm saying, well, sorry, misinterpretation. I'm saying, can I not also ask you, as a constituent of mine,
Oh, yeah.
like, your opinion is not invalid because you're an executive, right?
If you're asking as a constituent,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
You're not forbidden from giving me your opinion just because you're the president.
No, as long as it's like
Yeah,
as
exactly.
an attendee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is everybody understanding of what we're kind of voting on, this action item, that we're going forward with the process of, you know, feedback gathering from our constituents as board members on the efficiency and the perceived value derived from services? I see Angela, I see AJ.
My next question is that we'll be outlining the specific what gathering feedback.
Yes, that'll be the second vote on the table. AJ?
Yeah, so it's like, are we keeping it informal or? Like,
That's the second thing we're gonna vote on. The first thing we're voting on is, are we going forward with this at all? And the second thing we would vote on is formal and informal. So can I get a vote on whether or not we're gonna move forward with this process? Can I get a motion? Thank you, Daphne, and Angela seconder. All those in favor of moving forward with this process, please say aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? Sanjay and Jacob and Michael? Abstentions.
If we ask a question, just because both Sanjay and Chris are on first year committee, which is technically are they advising? Or is that which of them? So
They're advising.
Should they? It's up to them.
Yeah. And then now the question will be, is it going to be an informal process of gathering this information? As in, are you just going to go talk to your networks, talk to people, or is it going to be, or we're going to try and get a more formalized approach to this? Formalized approach meaning most likely online survey of some kind, either through Facebook, either through the CMS website. And we'll be able to discuss that after we approve a formal process. So,
Is the question that if we're gonna go forward with this as a formal process?
I think,
And
yeah.
then if that doesn't go through, then you ask the second one?
I think,
Or we're gonna.
can we all agree that the understanding would be, we'll vote on whether or not we go forward with this as a formal process, and if that motion is defeated, we'll then assume we'll go forward with it.
First, that needs to be.
So yeah, can you clarify the process?
So if we decide to vote on a formal process, we can either do the establishment of that formal process will look like now, then vote, or vote on a formal process and vote, and then decide what that formal
First,
process.
establish what formal is, and then.
You guys want to establish what it looks like first?
Of course, that way we know.
So then, what's it gonna look like?
We should have a deadline for when the surveys are considered complete. Have a date for when we should have some report created.
I agree with that. I agree with that method of doing things.
Wait, when
I
one
didn't
person
hear
is
from what
talking,
she said.
sorry, yeah, no, you were right.
Yeah, no, I'm just running speed. Angela was
You
still
were
talking.
supposed to be talking.
So again, like a date where this survey should end, perhaps a date when the report should be published, whatever else, similar to how Community Pulse was created. Timeline for one's promotion, specific graphics, etc. That's my limiting.
Thank you, Angela, for that. There was a motion on the floor from Simran, as represented by Phoebe, to vote instead first on whether or not this should go forward as an informal process. This way we can get that out of the way. And if this is voted in favor of, then there's no discussion on the formal process. And if this is voted down, then we'll begin the discussion properly.
I think what Angela and AJ were saying though is like they don't know what the alternative looks like to the informal process if we're going to put before we decide.
Regardless of the vote, we need the information so we can vote.
But
And
then,
yeah.
sorry.
No, I think we're gonna be on the same
Informal-
page. Here, Phoebe, so
Yeah.
go ahead.
In a sense, it was like, okay, so what would a formal process look like? And then that would be like fully fleshed, like, oh, we're gonna do a survey, we're gonna do this. I feel like it's like we're gonna be talking more logistics in terms of like what type of formal process. Regardless, the formal process would be some type of like reach out to the general like constituents and communities, like over like Facebook survey or some type of like thing where it's like the CU of organizations reaching out to the general public through some medium, whereas like an informal would be each rep goes through some form or way to reach out to some of their gear to like gather informal information, whatever that is. So which is why I thought you should go through formal first, because that's pretty straightforward in terms of what that's gonna be. And if you think that's completely not what you want to do, then whatever the formal process is, it's not gonna be that, is what I know.
I think the issue with doing it informally is the lack of accountability that can arise from it. There's already the idea that we're not transparent enough, and if we start having feedback sessions that are informal, then it doesn't really provide any validity to what we're essentially doing. So for that reason, informal does not set what we're.
I do want to point out that you guys have office hours, so you guys could just post like your feedback sessions there. And it wouldn't mean you're not recording minutes, but those are formally a part of your job description. Moving forward.
We even have like a weekly theme where first week it's this certain portfolio of services that each year you can talk about. And another week is another one, like 6 weeks. So 6 weeks, 6 weeks, that should be enough feedback for 6. What?
So you need to pay attention.
No, it's gonna be the same 4 hours.
No,
It's just like.
Yeah, we don't have to
It's just, I don't know how long we want that.
No, but also the amount of people that, like, you're not gonna get the same people coming back talking about different portfolios.
Fair enough.
Yes,
Suggestion.
Yeah, talking about concern about formal process, one is that we just finished a committee report to be post. There's a whole set of survey for B. And 2, cutting services is a very sensitive and extreme option. And I think that we need to do our due diligence and try to rush that whole process won't be that great. We have to design a whole process that is very equitable, that will get a complete and holistic view of what students are paying for services. And then once we get that feedback, we'll have to look at the whole huge ecosystem that is US, and I don't believe that's feasible in the 2 months after that.
I have a speakers list of AJ, are you gonna make a motion?
No.
Okay, AJ, Phoebe, and then myself, and then
No, Phoebe.
was it Phoebe, AJ, and then myself.
So what, I feel like if we did an informal process, it would more or less, it wouldn't be like a, okay, so we're from this, we're gonna cut these services. It's like give informal recommendations to the next board and exec and be like, hey, this is kind of what we've heard, but like do what you will. Which is what we're already gonna do, I think, from like what we've been discussing, but this is more or less just hearing from the constituents another perspective besides our like operational like side of it, where the ones we want to like cut or whatever, or like put on hiatus, or like, oh, because they're not operating very well, but also the constituents, if they don't see value in another service that, you know, might be operating fine, but they just don't have enough value, then like we want to hear that too, and then we'll pass that on all together as recommendations. Like this wouldn't be like a formal report that goes out to anyone, it's more or less passed on to the next team, just these are recommendations, so that before they start doing like budget and everything, they'll have like at least the notion or idea that they may have to look at services before that happens. But that's the thing.
AJ?
I get that, I understand like what this is for, however, I just wanna look at the big picture, the way our reputation is and the things that we kind of have to go through day to day where people always think we're up to something. It doesn't seem right to have feedback process that's informal. I mean, if it is informal, then why are we talking about it at board meeting? You should be talking to your constituents of it. You know, you should be in touch with your people on a daily basis. We have in our classes, we're pretty approachable. We have office hours. So if it's going to be informal, then it should be what we talking about right now. But if we're going to go ahead with this, then we put it in a form as a formal process. And due diligence is going to take time, and you can't do due diligence informally. essentially contradicts itself, especially if we're making big decisions, then I would have it in writing in terms of this is what we have our constituents feel, instead of coming and going like, oh, I talked to a bunch of my friends and all my friends think like me and we're all kind of against certain service or an idea that like we offer, which to me doesn't make any sense if we're gonna make big decisions.
And I agree with 78% of that. I agree with everything you said about if this was an informal process, that shouldn't have been brought up at a meeting, which I agree with. And my 2 cents with this is that if we're doing a formal process to get feedback, there has to be a formal result. There has to be a formal action taken at the end of this. And what's the purpose of getting this feedback on services? Was to determine whether or not these services are cut or if they're moved forward, which is not up to us. This is up to the next board and the next set of executives. So, from my perspective, this is an informal process every single year of the CUS, in the sense that every single board of directors, every single executive council is letting the next council know, letting the next board of directors know what they've heard in their year. But it's completely up to the next council to determine, or the next budget committee to determine what happens with each service in club. So I will be 100% in support of having this as an informal process, because I don't think we need to go through the work of the formal process, because there is survey fatigue and feedback fatigue. This has traditionally been an informal process, and there's no actual item that would come out of this formal process anyways. I saw the 2 hands over here, and then I think we're gonna just call a motion after that. Matt, you want to speak with us?
Yeah.
So the last 3, and then we're calling a motion.
Yeah, I just want to note that this is not my original. I don't know if it's like evolved and had devolved into this like mess. This is not my intention, and I just wanted to make that clear to everybody. All I just wanted was for us to kind of talk about what would be those facilities like when it comes to services and start discussion, but then it became like actions and then formal and informal and scoping out processes. It doesn't serve well in like a meeting setting like this, and those are just my 2 cents.
I just want to note that these informal recommendations, regardless of the vote here, will be passed on from the exec council. So, but that's based off of like operational excellence, more or less, and not like, oh, as an attendee, I think this service isn't quite that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, just letting you guys know that will occur regardless.
No, essentially that's the purpose of retreat. Right? Like when you're talking, like you understand, it's like this is what happened this year. This is what we did. Like this is what we're looking forward to. This is what we can kind of move on.
I hate to cut you off, Adrian, but Maddie did that.
Yeah, no, that's sorry.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I do agree with that. Sorry. Yeah, that the incoming team doesn't necessarily have to use our feedback, and if we were to use a formal process, there would be an action item. But I don't think that would mean that it would be useful to the incoming team, and maybe having a formal process might make that information more accurate and kind of usable for the team. And then, what did I say? Oh yeah, I was gonna say, having a formal process doesn't necessarily equate to survey, right? Like, you could just have a really structured or like, official way of, like even if we were to sit in CPA hall for a couple hours a day for a week and just like have tidbits and like approach people, that doesn't mean that's not enough, like a formal process. We would just, I don't think we have to put out a survey. I do agree with what everyone's saying about survey fatigue, but yeah.
Honestly, the tidbits thing to me sounds like an informal process. That's what it is. But anyway, so that was the last member on the speakers list. So the motion that we're going to have on the table here on the floor is a motion put forward by Simran through Phoebe, that this process of feedback and feedback will be done on an informal basis, whether or not somebody wants to sit in CPA hall with 10 minutes for 2 hours and get feedback. So this will be an informal process. So the motion is that the process of feedback will be an informal one. Now you've heard the motion. Can I get a seconder? The motion's already been put forward. So And Maddie was the last one to speak to this. So, if you can ask a question under 20 seconds, then go ahead.
If someone wants to see a formal written, what if someone wants to see this report, could we put in that if on request they want to see the specific informal feedback, they can contact Maddie?
I don't think it's up to us to like burden Maddie with that kind of thing.
No, that would be a no.
That'd be a part of the formal process.
Because these are like recommendations, not like, oh, we're gonna cut this, so this is the report. It's more like we can't just tell them like, hey, we might cut the ink, right? Because then, and then everybody on
I'm not sure if people want to hear constituents' opinions about services, and that's not.
Anyways, guys, that's an important question to raise, but we'll address that after this vote, if depending on how the vote goes. So you guys have heard the motion. Will the feedback process be an informal one? Put forward by Simon, seconded by myself. All those in favor of the feedback process being an informal one, please say aye. Aye, and please keep your hands up so that we can do a count. We have, sorry, who are you?
Jacob went after you next to her Brooks.
Yeah.
What is this?
Small is life.
We don't imagine
I wasn't a basketball team.
Okay, and then
And then any opposed to the process being an informal one? Any opposed, or when you had your hand up twice? No.
Yeah, are we getting? Are you in favor?
Everyone was in favor.
Okay, that's what I thought.
The two opposed were Sanjay and
So
Izzy.
there's no abstention.
Any abstentions?
Why yes?
Seeing none, the motion passes. This will be an informal procedure. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions to this. This is an important discussion. So we move on to our last item on the agenda. I will be strict on this one once Daphne's delivered the report to go and make this a 2 minutes. Yeah. Yes. No. The vote will happen afterwards.
No, there's no motion.
Yeah. To go in camera.
No, it's not.
Okay. Can I quickly make the point about 2 minutes? And
Yeah.
you do it? So that you will have each 2 minutes twice to talk on this issue. Daphne?
Would like to go back to the point when Chris talked about ratifying the board of director job descriptions. Is that Kevin sent it an hour ago? Do you guys want to add this as an item to just say yes to the items that have been? They've been revised, and it was just Maddie and I that had suggestions. It turns out. And so do you guys want to just vote on that or no?
If we don't vote, are they just going to move forward with the changes?
If you don't vote,
So if you guys don't vote, it should still go to candidates obviously. We would just put the word draft.
Okay, let's vote.
Yeah, you
Wait, you have
vote,
to motion.
and there's something in the job description that you don't agree with, it is constitutionally binding. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
You guys-
That was on people, because they sent it out.
No,
you know?
it's on ours.
Well,
The original
yeah,
was
and
on
then
the.
you and Matt are the only ones.
Yeah.
So if people should have seen the original email and submitted recommendations, so we're like, okay, we're just gonna vote.
Has everybody taken a look at their job descriptions?
Is anyone wildly?
If they were, they should have submitted this. So, can I get a motion to vote on the proposed
Isn't it active?
Daphne's motion? Daphne's added it to the agenda.
Did we need to,
I don't see it on the agenda.
like, I need to, no, I'm adding it right now.
Yeah, I have to add.
So I'm motioning to amend the agenda, so I need a seconder to amend.
Thank you, Phoebe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to add.
This is motion to add her agenda item, which we've already kind of discussed.
Motion to add a vote on the job descriptions.
Motion to add.
Yeah, that's literally what you said. I was like,
Okay,
Motion to add agenda.
Sorry.
Motion to adjust, can you please stop? Motion to add a vote on job descriptions to the agenda. Nice and simple.
Yes.
Seconded by Simran. All those in favor of adding this to the agenda, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. And now we vote to ratify those job descriptions. You've all had an opportunity to see the job descriptions and submit recommendations to change them. So now can I please get a motion to accept the job descriptions? Thank you, Angela, seconded by Erwin. All of those in favor of accepting the job descriptions, please say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion, any abstention?
Abstention.
Abstention?
Oh, same, abstention, I haven't read it. But I don't know what's.
Motion carries despite the abstentions. Thank you. And we'll let Natalie do that. So you guys have all heard my spiel on the 2 minutes things, and then now we'll go vote to go on camera.
Can I motion to vote in camera? The reason why is because confidentiality with the person who put forth the initial feedback has not given the permission for it to be public. And if I were to bring it to a board meeting in public, then it would be included in our minutes and for distribution, and I just don't have that permission yet. And because of confidentiality, I'm going to go in camera. Do you have any questions?
Motion to go on camera. Can I please see a motion? Thank you, Phoebe, seconded by Sanjay. All those in favor of going in camera for this discussion, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We're now on camera.
Hold on, let me go in camera. We're back. Hello.
And so the next regularly scheduled meeting of the board of directors shall be 2011, January 28th, 2018. I believe that's a Tuesday, right? That's the next, that's Tuesday.
No, it's a Sunday.
It's a Sunday, oh, okay.
At 2 p.m., you all have to be there if you're bored and you're learning.
Thank you. Can I please get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Thank you,
Oh.
Erwin.
Wow, we're pulling through when it matters.
We're business casual, because there will be presentations from people.
Oh, SPF.
So, yeah.
I will remind you.
We're only doing SPF, so we're gonna like motion to skip the first couple of sections.
Sorry,
like
did
we
you
do.
put the job description?
Yes.
Moved by Erwin, seconded by Victor, I think I saw hand up. Sick. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting at 8:50, please say aye. Aye, that's right, aye. Any opposed? Nay? Any abstentions for some reason? No? Motion. Okay.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.